Maybe I better say hello if anyone is out there. I can't tell if you're out there if you haven't put a comment into the box. So if you're out there listening, just give me a thumbs up, please. Hi, Janella. I'm glad you could make it tonight. So how have you been? I hope that we have some students come in tonight. A few. Last week there were, actually I think it was just Katia and I, and so I really didn't go through the class. I decided that we really didn't need a replay of that, and we'll just start today with letting any of the new students get a taste of working in Inkscape. Oh, great. Yeah, I don't know if you have uploaded. Hi, Dwayne. Oh, it's wonderful to see you here too. Yeah, Janella, if you still have the program that we used last year, I think sometime this spring, Inkscape did do an updated version, so you may want to reload Inkscape if you haven't in the last few months. I'm not exactly sure when it came out. The only thing we might be using that's new is there's now a button to change an object into a path. So, and there are some other things too, but we won't even be looking at anything like that tonight. Have you ever worked in a drawing program before, Dwayne? Okay. It won't be a problem tonight, and you'll just see where there is a new button. You'll see where it is. So, when you spelled out your name, do AIM this afternoon. Is that, am I pronouncing it right? Oh, okay. So you know pretty much what you're doing in there. Yeah, I mean it's so similar and yet tools in a different place. Some of the Dwayne, okay, I am saying it right with the W in it. Yeah, I started out. I used to work in um, all the programs, Photoshop and Dreamweaver and Illustrator, and but now I started using Inkscape a few years ago when we went to video classes, and I decided to teach diagramming, mostly because it really is so powerful a program for free. And since I think there's new people that I know are just going to watch the replays, I will be going through just basic things to start out today. Oh, I don't build libraries and templates with it usually. I just usually just make diagrams using it. And I didn't do a whole lot of, actually, I didn't work in an industry or an any place art related that used Illustrator. Um, because mostly what I did is work in Dreamweaver, and then I taught classes and I was only teaching the basic ones, so we'll give it about 5 minutes and then we'll get going. Have you tried diagramming any tatting yet, Dwayne, in Inkscape? Yes, that's true. There's always something to learn. Yeah, it's hard getting the wings right and everything to make it look like a bee. Yes, a bee has little wings. They're kind of see-through little wings. Let's see if I can. I'm going to. What do I want? Oh, I want a new window. I'm going to open a new window here and. Oh, yes. Okay, I have pulled up Let me see if I can get it on the screen. Aha, there it is. Let's look at these honeybee drawings. I think the one thing is if you can you see the Google page I've got up with the images for honeybee drawing? I can't tell what kind of a lag I have between what I'm saying and what you're actually seeing, because there seems to be a lag. The bottom middle look best. Yes, yes, and that's what I'm thinking. Let's open that up. Let's see if I can visit it and get it up bigger. There we go. I think the thing is going to be to get the wings in more of a longer, narrower look than a butterfly. Whereas a butterfly, you definitely see the big top wing and the bigger bottom. But tatted legs look silly sometimes, yeah. Probably I wouldn't make them too long, and I think if you can maybe somehow just get them like this one, they come out a bit and then kind of have a corner and go down, maybe, and depending upon the view, this is looking top down. I don't know if that's what yours are looking, but yeah, and we can, there's two ways we can look at students' work. You sort of want to use a long picot to divide. Oh, yes. Yes, I can see using that. Yep. About how big is it going to be? I think the other difference too is I don't know if you're actually making a body that has sections, is that with the butterflies being longer and narrower, if you can get a shape like this bottom striped part and then a rounder shape for the middle, so it doesn't look like one long straight line like usually you see butterflies tatted with that, it could help it look more like a bee. Oh my gosh, would that be wonderful with a bee in the middle? That would be fun for Valentine's. Let me go back and see. Oh, here's some flying that show the legs going back. They still come out in the back and go back like they're hanging back when he's flying along. Oh, this is on iStock. Download for free. Well, you have to sign up, a 1-month free trial. Here's one here with a side view. Oops, it's getting... Now that's interesting too, with the side view. I don't know if these arrows mean I can make it. No, they just open. It doesn't look like that's a bigger view. It's just... Oh, you're welcome. This is part of designing. It's basically like we started the class, because this is the first part, the research. And it's always great to talk with someone about your ideas. And we've done a lot of that in past classes, especially before the classes were video, when they were just in a chat box and we were all just typing to each other. Exchange ideas and possibilities. And I'd like to get more to doing more of that. Now, there's two ways we can share. Before, what I would do is I have a folder in Dropbox. I don't know if either of you, I think you've used it before, Janella, from classes before video. And I could share a particular folder that we would put things in. Like if you have a Dropbox, you can make a folder that you can share whatever is in it with certain people. And I can share, I have the one folder, and so that we can see each other's ideas. The other thing is, a lot of people don't want anyone to see their ideas while they're working on them. So I do have, it's been inactive for a while, a private Facebook group for designing, and in there we can share. The only people in there are people who are invited, which are people who do attend the classes, and some of them who really keep up and watch all the replays. And we could share images that way too. In fact, we may have a new design from Kathleen next week. I need to get a hold of her. She sent me a new design of hers, and I forgot to ask before class if she wants to show it in class, and we can look at it. But hers is a finished design, so. But this is research. I do this. I a lot of times like to go to drawn images in here we are. And I put in honeybee drawing. Sometimes I'll put in drawing a bee or drawing a honeybee. This is nice too, because you see all different positions of anything you want to make from all different perspectives. Here's one even with a flower on its wing and on its back, which are all things that can make a design original. Okay, I am going to close this down, or at least make it smaller until we're ready. What I'm going to do right now is bring up the my Inkscape so you can see it. I don't know about you guys, but I really just like Windows 11. I'm always putting my boxes up and having them go like, well, that went up. You ever have them where it splits into splits your screen and shows all your documents in a smaller size when you didn't mean to do that? So for anyone brand new who's watching, we're going to start out today looking in Inkscape. I probably should go through even the welcome screen. So I'm going to close that and I'm going to open it up. Now I'm double clicked. I'm probably going to have two windows open up. I think I did, yep. Maybe more. I think I have it. Mine's not opening up with the welcome screen. If you get the welcome screen, one of the things you can do to get rid of it is if you like to just open up your program and not have, remember there's that window that it says time to draw, and you can say new document down at the bottom of it, and it shows some of the previous things you've done. I closed that, and the way I did it is I went to, for those of you who are new, if you've worked in Word or any computer program before, this has got, Inkscape has a menu across the top, just like the Word program has, and they're the same things as you'll find new document, open recent, save a copy, and those type of things, close and quit the program. Also an edit menu. This has a few extra things on it. It's got duplicate on it, and it's got clone, and we'll be talking about duplicates and clones. Like here it says create a clone. Clones are fun to work with, and different things about selecting layers and all, and we'll be going through all of those things, not using probably the menu. We have layers, which we're going to be using. I'm going to click and open it and show you what a layer is. This part of the screen off to the right has different panels in it that relate to whatever you're doing. I'm going to pull it over. This has got a layer 1 in it. Everything I will put on the drawing right now would be on this layer. However, layers are kind of like you stack up a whole bunch of clear sheets on top of each other, because you can see through layers to what's below if you want to. And if you've got something on your paper, we're going to be able to lock that layer so it doesn't move, and you can draw on the layer above without moving or touching anything on the layer below. And we'll be talking about how you do your layers. So that's what the layers are. Also over in this box, we're going to have, we'll talk about object and path soon. Hi, Katia. Just started going over the basics of the menu for new people. Dwayne's new in our class, but not new to using a drawing program. And this window does, you can see I can grab it with my arrow and open it more or keep it closed. And you're going to see other context-sensitive panels pop up in there as we go. Oh, that's no problem. For the most part, we just got started on Inkscape. We were looking at honeybees before that, so. So we have our new document here, and like I said, there's very similar things plus some new things across the top. Now, what we're going to use in this program is down the left side. This toolbar has the tools that we're going to be working with. We'll probably just work with the top, not the second one down. That is a shape builder tool. And I can't remember if we looked at that when it came out. I think it came out in the last version. And we'll look at that. But mainly that's the third one third one down. Mainly we're going to use the top one, which is the selector tool. And a really good time saver is to use your keyboard rather than going back and forth always and clicking on whatever tool you want. And the selector tool is simply S on your keyboard. So I could either click on it and select something, or I can just hit S on my keyboard. So we're going to start going through the basics of what we're going to use. And the first thing is to make a teardrop to represent a ring. So we're going to go down here to the circle tool. I am curious, this is the first time I'm using this. Oh, can you see the green? Sometimes it goes away, and I think, can you see the green arrow when I move it? I switched to that, hoping it would be much easier to see where I'm going in the program. But when I've been using it earlier, the green would only pop up when I'm hovering over the toolbox and not when I was actually on the paper. But now it's staying. At least I can see it. So I'm going to go over here and click on the circle tool. It makes circles, ellipses, and arcs. And I'm going to just draw on my paper. Now this is an object. And I'm going to click again on my greenish yellow arrow. It's bright lime green on mine, but hopefully, does it show up enough? Or I could try a different color next week. Oh, see, now it's not showing, just my regular black one. So when I click on this now, I can click on the outline and move it anywhere. The other things I can do to it are, now I'm going to pull out a ruler mark for this and put it right in the center because I want you to see a couple different things. I'm going to get this bigger here. Okay. First of all, if I grab the right arrow, I can pull it and I'm making it into a wider oval rather than a circle. But notice where the center line is. It actually pulled it open to the right. Okay. And if you want to draw from the center, now that I have it, you know something is selected when it has, when I was going to school, they were called the marching ants. It's the dashed lines around your selection, the box around them, or rectangle, or whatever. And I'm going to just hit my delete key and delete it. If I have the circle tool, if I wanted to make a perfect circle, I would hold down my control key. And notice that if I move in some directions more than a little, it'll turn into an oval. But if I just drag diagonally down to the right or diagonally up, it usually, did you see it pop from here? It popped back into a circle. As long as I have the control key held down, it'll do that. The other thing is with the shift key. If I hold the shift key and draw, I'm going to down here. I'm going to start right on my ruler line, and I'm going to hold shift. Notice now it automatically centers itself. It opens wide from the center out, and that's holding the shift key down. also, if I'm pulling from the right, put it back. If I'm pulling just one arrow, if I hold my Shift key down, it widens from the same on each side of the center, rather than here where it pulls off to one side. It is no longer centered on my ruler line. And I didn't mention that there's rulers across the top and the bottom. And if you click and drag, you can bring out ruler lines, both the vertical one I brought out from the left side and the horizontal one. So you can really align things really well this way. So now I'm just going to delete these, select one and delete. I'll keep the circle. We're going to use that. No, I'm going to use an, okay, I used to use circles. Now I always start with an oval. So I'm going to click on the center point of these two ruler guides, hold my Shift key, and drag an oval out from the center. So I know my oval is centered. Now this is an object. I can only manipulate the width and the height, and if I use my selector tool up here again, I can click a second time on it and I get rotation arrows. And right in the center, and you see it because I dragged out my oval out from using the Shift key, the center of rotation is exactly in the center and right where my vertical and horizontal lines cross. And that means that if I grab a corner, it's going to rotate around that center of rotation. The other thing I could do is maybe, let's turn it into a ring first, then I'll show you about moving the center of rotation. Okay, an object in Inkscape has to be turned into an editable path in order for us to change anything besides the width and height or just rotate it as it is. Let me get this a little. And again, when I click on it the first time, you see just the plain arrows. Now, if I go over the second tool down, it's called the node tool. And that, again, I find it's much faster if you just click N on your keyboard. Now, I could click on it and bring it out here, but what I'm going to do now is just click N on my keyboard for node. And I'm going to, this is one of the things that's new, Katia. One of the ways you can change it is go to path, because we want a path that we can manipulate in lots of different ways. We could go to path and say, change this object to a path. The same if we're doing squares, any of these, the square and the circle, you have to get nodes that we can manipulate. And I could say, like I said, path, object, path. But look at right up here, right to the left of the width and height boxes. This green right here is an object to path. And now you'll notice instead of the 3, I have 4 square nodes. Now these are editable because if you click on them, we have handles. Each one has a handle on each side of it. If you can see the handle top there and the handle top down there. And if I start moving those, now look what I can do to this shape. And notice that the curve is curving in to the left, and that's the direction I'm pulling that top handle. Or it can go out. And the same, now you'll notice too, it's a different length than this bottom one. And we'll be talking about that. I can change it back. I can make them equal length if I just go up to the four. This bar is a control bar, which is context sensitive. So it's all the things and how you can manipulate this shape I have now. So if we go to the, yeah, isn't that nice? That's right there. Now, the other thing I always forget, well, I guess I'm just getting paid. If I click on there, let's see if I click right on the line. You see, I do get things here, but I don't think there's there's not an object to path. So this little button is really nice. Now I'm going to click on, make sure I'm clicked onto this square node. I'm going to go up to these four, right under the word extensions. Right under there are four controls, and I'm going to pick the third one to the right that shows equal size handles on each, pink little handles on each side of the pink node. If I click on that, notice what it's done. My handles are now equal, which means as long as I haven't changed this top and bottom node, whatever I've done, it moves as one like this. It just changes. I can move nodes like this. I can do whatever I want. Sometimes when you're working with a handle, you'll get this odd shape, and it happens because sometimes it can get dragged out too far or something like that. One of the most important keys these are called hotkeys or shortcut keys. One of them is Control Z. Just like in a Word program or anything else, Control Z undoes what you last did. So I just hit Control. I held Control down while I hit the Z key. I'm going to hold Control again and hit Z, and it keeps going back. I could go all the way back to where I started from. So are there any questions so far? Or any comments? If not, we're going to go on and turn this into a teardrop. I'm going to assume there's no questions. If there is, it may take a minute for them to show up, so I'll keep watch. But one of the things, no questions, great, okay. I'm going to click on the bottom node. So I've selected the bottom node. I'm going to go up to these four choices again and take the very left one. It makes the node a corner. I double-clicked on it, and now I have a corner. That node is turned into a corner. Now I basically have a ring, a teardrop shape. One of the things I found is this looks a little, to me, funny in through here. So what I like to do is select the node. I can do them one at a time, and I would use my up arrow keys and go one, let's see, whoops, no, I don't want you there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can count them. 11. Then I'll select the left. I'm going to undo that. I could select the left one and do that. It went down too far. Okay. However, if I hold my Shift key and select both of them, I'm moving them up at the same time. Now this to me looks much more like a ring. The only thing now, I'm not going to add too many more keys to you. We have a we have a zoom tool over here. I don't think it's on the screen. It's way over down here on this lower right side. But again, just for zoom, you're just going to hit your Z key, and I have my zoom tool here. So I want a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to draw around it. It looked like my bottom was open, but that must have just been the program. Once in a while, the program will like throw a gap or a space that's not really there. Besides using my Z key, in this program, all you have to do is either hit plus or minus. There's no other key that you need to use along with it. So now we have our teardrop shape. And we turned it, with the node tool, we turned it into a path so we would get editable nodes. Oh, I know why it looked like that was empty down there. It's because there's the gray, the square node, the diamond-shaped node down there. So the other things that I want to show you and that we'll be using a lot can also be accessed with shortcut keys, but these are nice. Just like Control-Z for zoom, these are cut, copy, and paste, just like in most other programs. So if I was going to copy it, and we do not as much just plain copying in here, because if I just hit Control Copy, and then Control V for Control Paste, you see that it's moved off to the side. Well, when we're diagramming, we usually want it to be right next to it or rotated a little so the points are together. So what we can do instead of that is, and again, these are cut, copy, paste, and then we have duplicate and clone. We're going to take a look at those. If I select it and duplicate it, which is Control D, I have a second shape there, but it's like a paste in place. I have two, but they're right in place. So now I'm going to take and duplicate this and rotate it. So what I want to do is I want to get my rotation. However, I want this to rotate around. I don't want it to rotate right around the base of this one, because you know how when you put them together, we don't want them to be overlapping, and very rarely do we start with nothing in the center, but I will do it. Okay, I'm going to Control D. Before I rotate it, I'm going to bring the rotation point down to the bottom point. Then I will be able to rotate it. And if I duplicate it again, I can rotate another one. And if this is Control D, and I rotate it again, so there's our 4 rings, which visually are the shape of a square. Or if you had the top and bottom ones longer, you'd have a diamond. And this is where shapes come into play too. Now, if a lot of times, I'm going to just undo this. So I have, oops. I'm going to delete these extra ones. Oh, now I'm down. Control Z back in place. A lot of times, when we're diagramming, we have maybe, what do I want? A central ring that are like the center of a flower that our petals are going around. So what I would do, I'm going to start at the center again. I'm going to hold Shift and Control, get myself a circle for these to rotate around. I'm going to hit the S key to get my selector tool because my diamond isn't quite vertical. Okay, now what we can do if we double click, we're going to be rotating it around the center of the circle by dragging this rotation point down. So now we're going to be rotating it, and this will be the point. So if I Control D, so I duplicated it and rotate it. Now see, this one, this size circle I'd be able to get more in, and later we'll talk about getting the right size circle for how many petals you want. I can rotate that one. Another thing is, if I have this one selected, well, I'll get into that next week. I can bring one down there. And there's a way I'm going to Control D again and bring this one up there. And I'm just hitting the minus sign to get it in my screen better. What we'll do later is automatically, if we're rotating things, see, that piece is not going to rotate if I just move it. And anything I do with this one is only going to affect this one. And so we'll talk about next week about, I just moved my other ones out of place, about how we can group things together and how we can change the size of them at the same time, because there is one other type of tool, and that's a clone. And see, if I make this one wider, oh, I didn't clone, oh, I did. You know what I did? Instead of Control D, I used Alt D. I made clones rather than just duplicates. All right, Control D is going to make a duplicate, and it's going to react just the way I showed you. I was hitting Alt D. I'm so used to that sometimes. And this key will, whatever your very first, now my first one was this petal here, this top one. I can click on this one, and notice it doesn't change any of the others. I'm going to undo it. But if I click this top one, my very first one, whatever I do to this one, whoops, I didn't mean to move it, I meant to grab the arrow. it's changing all of them at the same time. So we have a copy that pastes your copy wherever it wants to. It's usually close to what you're copying, but it's not right on top of it. A Control D puts it right on top. But when you rotate that and keep rotating one of them around, each one of them is independent. But when you have your first one, do Alt D, you get clones, which means each one of them is linked to the very first one. And there are cases where you might want to have your clone off to the side and have all of these be, I'm going to do Alt D again and rotate it. Oh, this new one, I'm not around my center point anymore. But even this one now, because it's one of the clones, isn't going to change the other. But I could still go over here and change this one. And all of them changed. But notice you have to redo your bottom points to the circle. And when you get to know a lot more about the program, there's ways you can change that and do that differently too, because of the path effects menu. So this is basically how we're going to be working. These are the basics of working with shapes, turning them into live editable paths. Yes, the clone off to the side really, really is nice. Oh shoot, what was I going to do next? All of a sudden I totally lost my train of thought, and I'm way far down on my list, so let's see, maybe I'll think about it if I start doing Control Z on these. Maybe since those of you who are in here, this is for students who've done this before. I don't know if you've tried this way of manipulating them. I think I'm going to put this one, whoops. If you just click it and drag it without noticing that I didn't, that I grabbed right on the outline instead of one of the up and down arrow. Okay, another way that you can rotate. Now, some people I know are don't want to have anything to do with math. But in here, we basically are going to be talking about rotating and circles. So we'll look at a circle next week of how it's divided up. For those of you who are familiar, math background, and remember that a whole circle is 360 degrees. And if we split it into 6 pie shapes, we've got 30 degrees. Well, Inkscape, this can be done manually without knowing that, but Inkscape's default is 15 degrees for rotation, and that can be changed. And next week we'll look into how we can change our preferences. But for this week, I'm going to select that, and I'm going to click on a tool over here, this very top, looks like a magnet, and that's what it's going to do. It's called the snapping tool, and it will it'll snap shapes and lines. Oh, I know what I was going to do. Don't let me forget making a chain. It will snap things to your guidelines. And I think because I remembered what I really wanted to show you, another basic thing, we'll get into that next week. What I wanted to show you was what I consider the easiest way and the most precise way to get a chain. So I'm just gonna, what I would probably do is just duplicate it, Control D, and then move it to the right. Now I could move it up and down like this. However, if I hold Shift, oops, I don't know if I held Shift or Control. It's Control I need. If I hold Control down, now it's hard to move it up and down unless I move my cursor quite a long ways. It actually will keep it in straight line up or down. So I'm going to put these two maybe a little bit apart. Maybe we want a picot to join them together. And to make the, whoops, where's my, I want to get in here. My chain arc, I'm going to use one more different tool. This is actually the main tool of a drawing program. It's called the pen tool. And you can draw straight lines with it, or you can draw Bezier curves, which we'll talk about. For today, we're just going to talk about using our pen tool. I clicked on it. Now, I am going to click on the very point of my teardrop. I'm going to go across. And notice I can do that up or down too. But since I whoops, did I click? Oh, I clicked again. I didn't mean to click again. I want this to be a straight line. One click, and then hold down the Control key. And notice I can move it up here, but can you see how the line is moving, and it's moving by increments of, whoops. If you're done with your line, you can always hit End. And I just ended that line. I'm going to delete it because I didn't go where I wanted to. Get my pen tool done. I'm going to one click, go across, one click the bottom of this one. And I can double click and it ends the line. If you move your pen tool and you've got a red line following it, that means you forgot to double click and end your line. Another way you can end it is to hit Enter on the keyboard. So now I have a straight line. And I'm going to add a node to this. Again, the node tool, I'm going to click N on my keyboard. Notice I have a diamond-shaped node at the beginning and at the end. Now, if I select, another way I could select both of them, instead of clicking and holding down Shift, and then clicking to add a second item, which what we're doing is using having nodes. Are our items. The other thing I could do is select around both of them. As long as my square's around both of them, I can select both nodes. You can see now this one and this one, when I hover over them, are both red. So they're both clicked. So what that's going to do, up here on the top, underneath the file on menu, the far left, you can see it shows a node with a plus sign above it. I can click it to add a node. Now, because I had both selected, both the beginning and the ending node, that node is dead center. It'll put it dead center. If I selected the left one, hold shift, select the right one, if I hit add a node again, that one's going to go midway between the two nodes. But I don't need this node, so I'm going to select it, and I'm going to just hit my delete key to get rid of it. Because if we're making an arc, we're just going to want to draw. Sometimes you might want to, I moved my ruler line over here. If I don't want to bother holding a key and just pulling it down, wherever it goes, I know I can pull it down if I have a line and keep it straight. And also, there's usually, everything you do, there's different ways you can do something. I'm going to hold down the control key, and now see how it's snapping. It wants to stay going perfectly straight down. So if I figure I want my chain to be about like that, now I'm just going to select that center one. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to choose that third from the left one that makes it symmetrical. And there it's given me symmetrical handles and a chain. These can be manipulated. Now that I've got a symmetrical, I can drag just one and the other one moves exactly the same. And there's my chain. So next week we'll talk about how we can group these three things together and move them as one item. And we'll be able to ungroup them and do different things with them. And it's only been a half hour. I can show you some more things. I know it's a lot of information to take in at once, but you can always go back and watch the replay. The thing is to play around with these things. Let me just show you one of the reasons why the node tool is the main tool of a program like this, is because if I have my pen tool, I can click anywhere. I can go up to the right and click, down and click, here and click. I can make whatever shape I want. When I get back to the starting point and go right over the top of the beginning point, I can end right here by double clicking. And I'm going to use my selector tool. I have an enclosed shape. I don't know what shape it is, but and again, I could go up to my node tool. Now, when you use the pen tool, automatically, it's different than drawing a square or a circle, an object, a preset object. It's, which are the pink tools here. These already have editable nodes. I can do the same things. I can take this node. Now, because I did only one click, these are corner nodes. Now, if I select this one right here and hit the symmetrical nodes, notice now I have handles that I can manipulate these with. And so this is why this is such a, drawing programs are so fun to use. I mean, this pen tool can do anything. We talk about lines. I talked about lines in Tatting this afternoon. And when you talk about lines, lines can be, I could do like a zigzag chain, which is different than the zigzag stitch that you get with Victorian sets. that you get the zigzag on top of the um, double stitch. Since we're working with half stitches, and you get the zigzag wherever you switch the from doing the first half of one to the second half of the double stitch. When I draw, I can make, that. I can also, if you click and drag, and then notice this time when I let go, I have a handle right down here. Handles. Now if I double click on this, I'm going to hit N to, whoops, this is a pen, I forgot, the pen tool is one that you can't always switch. Now here I just used my S key to hit my selector key. I'm going to move this out of the way. If I just select it, again, even a shape like this, with these arrows I can only do width and height. I can double click and do rotation. Again, have a rotation point. And so notice though that with that zigzag line, you can stop and end at a point and you just have, this is still editable, but it's an open shape. A shape like this we could fill with color, but we don't need to for tatting. So these are the things we will use most often. Are there any questions or comments? So now that I'm through the basic things, let's see, what do I want to do? I guess I'll go on. You can cover a lot in an hour, and if you're a beginner, this you may have to go back over it several times and keep looking. I even go back and watch videos that other people do to remember things and do things. This is something else I want to, none so far, okay, show you, is that, I'm going to get rid of my one down there. Something that you can see, it wasn't noticeable when we had our teardrop shape, but it is noticeable on our, see, it keeps, this is what I don't like. It's like, no, that's not what I want. I'm going to do my Z key. I want you to really look closely. Notice how this fits. Now, this isn't bad. And we can just S on our keyboard, our selector tool. And of course, we can then, anywhere on the line, I'm going to do it right on my ruler guide, right above the height arrow. I can move it into place. Now notice how nicely that fits into place. I guess this guy's a little off here. But sometimes, I'm going to back out a little. It's easier to fit things together. Say I wanted to, I'm going to Control D. All I want is a duplicate. I don't want a clone, because I want to be able to manipulate them separately. If I'm trying to put something together, I want to move this so they come together at an angle. Sometimes you can get an angle and it's hard to get a good shape right down here. I think because of the curve angles, this was real easy. And if I wanted these hooked together so they don't move separately. They stay right there connected. I still have the first one selected, hold my shift key, select the second one. Now, we're going to use we're going to use the object menu, even though this is a path. Now we're talking about a different object menu. And I can go down and say group, which is Control G. Now, can you see how big my box is surrounding both of them? And now if I select and move them, they're connected. So I won't have to, say you're doing, chains in a row or something where they're facing the same direction out. You could make those two, and if we I'll just copy and paste this time. Control. I've got two of them. Anything that's grouped, it's going to copy at the same time. I think if I can show you the one thing about the ends coming together. I think if I get them at the better angle together. I'm going to totally delete these. Whoops. If I rotate this one, and I am going to zoom in. I think this will give me what I really want to show you. We'll zoom. I'm going to use my Z key because I want to just enlarge right where they come together. See how the ends are flat? And so if I'm using my selector and putting this guy, it's almost what I want to do is something like the top of the letter A, where they come into different angles, and see how they're not straight across. So you can't really hook them together good. It takes some being close-up work to be able to make them look like they're together. So what we want to do is change these ends to be rounded. And what we need for that is our stroke menu. Now, obviously, we can get can't think of where, fill here, object, fill and stroke. The stroke is your outline. The fill would be if you're putting a color inside. This is a panel. I could double click and open up that panel in place of the layers panel. And notice now how many layers I have. They're all on layer 1. See to the left of the word layer 1 is a drop down arrow. If I click that, it pulls all the other things up into it because everything I drew on here is on the same layer. And if I click down, each one of these is, okay, G14 is my left little path here, and G16, I double click it, then it selects it, is my right. So each of these is on the same layer, and we'll be working with more than one layer as we get to drawing diagrams. But instead of that, I want my fill and stroke menu. There's on the top right of this big white panel here is a drop down arrow. Anytime you can click that and get to all the different panels. Align and distribute. Create tile clones. Fill and stroke. I'm going to open fill and stroke. I think that's when unless my memory, yep, this is the right one. This first is the fill for the center of a circle, then the stroke paint, that's the color. If I click on one of these and I can change the paint, I have to click on, it says paint is undefined. I have to click on, oops, yeah, the second box. There are ways, down here you'll notice across the whole bottom of the screen, we have next to the red X on the bottom left, it says fill. We have a fill box, black and 50% gray. Below that we have I'm going to have to make my windows. Let's see if I can get that up. I don't know what that is right there. Whatever that is, it's covering up my stroke. But there it says stroke. We can pick colors from down here too if we want to change the color of our lines. But since I'm using the panel up here, I can just pick it here. Oops, I have it selected. If I click the arrow, I get a color wheel. There we go. There's a little dot here, circle. I can move into wherever I want to, rather than moving the top and bottom arrows down here. Okay, I'm going to use that pink. And then we can really see what I'm talking about. Now I'm going to the right of that is the tab for the stroke style. And remember when I said it's hard to get them together, because whatever you do, if you line up the left side, the right side, you can see a little bit of the point. And whichever side you line up, you're going to see a little bit of the other. Hi, Kathleen. Oh, it's great to see you here late. We're just going over the basics for people who are brand new and watching the replay. Because I know we have some new students who can't come to class, so they're just watching the replay. So we're going through basics. And right now I'm showing how the end, it's called an end cap. And we have straight across ones. And I think if I turn this, whoops, let me rotate this a little more. It'll be even better. It's hard to get one to fit inside the other and not have a piece of it showing out. So we're going to change the end caps of these to a way that's easier to fit the ends of things together. So I have the pink one selected. I'm going to go to this stroke style. Up above is where we can hit the plus sign or the minus sign, make our line bigger or smaller. And it can go by millimeters, or there's this drop down triangle arrow. And I tend to do everything a lot of times in inches, although when I'm doing strokes, I know the size is better in points. So I usually pick points. And we'll be talking more about that later when we start our diagrams. But notice over at the left, right in the center, it says cap. And notice the first one, the blue one, has a flat end, and the dots go all the way to the end of it. And that's where the end is. The far right one, again, is this is called a butt cap. We have a square cap, and between the two of them, it would just be certain circumstances that it would matter. I think certain situations you might want this. I always just usually use the first one. But notice that the dots don't go up all the way to the end. So that means that if you were crossing them over, you'd want the center of the one over the center of not the end of this right one, but where the dot would end. So actually it would be like far, I guess the pink one's easier to see my cursor. That one, if you wanted to cross them symmetrically, you could line up a point right here. And when you hover over, it will usually show you those things. But I want to pick the center one. Notice what it did to my end. It rounded it off. And if you're connecting things, I'm going to select the black one now. I'm also going to select the rounded cap. Come on, I've got you selected. I don't know why this one isn't rounding. And my menu is showing me I can't do it. I'm going to try, okay, this, remember, was a double. Two chains hooked together, or the representative of two chains. I'm going to ungroup them. So I've only got a single one. I should have. Okay, I'm going to go to Object, down here, Ungroup. I think I hit that right. Let me see if that works, because this one should be, oh, now they're not grayed out. Okay, when you put two roundeds together, you don't have the point sticking out, so it's much easier to get things, maybe do this in the node, yes, maybe I needed to do it in the node tool, you're right. So these will go together a lot better. Easier, doesn't take as long to line them up, and like I said, it just makes it easier. So a lot of times when I'm diagramming, I just use the rounded cap. So whatever angle things are coming in at, I know that they're going to look smooth. And I just already mentioned grouping and ungrouping. If I have the black one selected, and I have the pink one is ungrouped. So if I select the black one, hold down my shift key to add to my, the shift key will add to a selection. And now I go and do Object, Group. Notice instead of two boxes, they're all enclosed in one box, and I can move them around as one. Yeah, it is much easier, Kathleen. And Kathleen is the one who has, I didn't know if you wanted to show everybody or if you have a special time you're going to present your tatting design, or if you'd want to show it in class. I did not show it this morning, but I could show it tonight because I know you have diagrams in there. She has a beautiful instruction sheet. That's all I'm going to do for tonight here, because for a beginner it's an awful lot, and hopefully for the rest of you, you might have picked up a tip or a trick or something like that. Oh, okay. I think let's see if I have it. Wants me to sign in. Let me see. I think I put it. I know I put it in one of my folders. Oh, I know. Put it in there. Nope. Now I won't be able to find out. You know what? Let me go to my email here. Oh, where'd it go? Oh, it's up above. It's in the first one. Here is her snowflake design. Whoops. Put that down now. Open this up farther. Isn't that beautiful? And I love the open space, the shape of the arches. And I like how the clover, the center one, really stands up and gives it a different shape than a typical one that gives you almost an equilateral triangle. Time got you stuck at the beginning of the third row. I don't understand that, your comment, Katia. The beads in it and the repetition. A design can get busy with beads, but one of the things, the beads she's kept, there's darker and different shaped. Are those bicones? No. And there's light yellow ones. Just the two colors, which is really nice on a design like this. And it really, notice how the beads themselves, we were talking about how the Gestalt principles of closure and of how we recognize shapes that are very familiar. Oh, you were testing it. Okay. Wonderful. The beads themselves, you see a circle. Even though it's arcs around, they're similar. And with the beads all in the same place, you see a circular circle as much as you see the arcs themselves. And the size of that outer arc, I should say negative space, the negative space in that arc really highlights the, I don't know if those are clovers or if they're overlapped, like we had on the tulips, that one tulips pattern. Looks, they're overlapped, aren't they, Kathleen? So anyway, this is a wonderful design. And look at the way she's done her pattern. It's really beautiful to look at. And all of her, did you do this all in Inkscape, Kathleen? This is where we get into filling our shapes with color for beads. Look how nice her diagrams are. Notice she's got a curved arrowhead. We'll be making those. That would probably be good for next week, is to make those. All in Inkscape, your first ever. That's wonderful, Kathleen. It's super. They are stacked rings. Okay, I thought After I looked a little closer, I thought that's what they were. Kathleen, that is the way a designer's book should look. A mess of notes and sketches. And those are overlapped. Okay, yes, those are overlapped. So this is the type of thing we'll get into diagramming this year. Now, I have to say, this is the thing. When you think about, I mentioned clouds. Yes, there was a lot of work put into these instructions in this pattern. It's wonderful. I want to go back off a little on this. Okay, our mind wants to organize and recognize things. I don't know if anybody sees the cute thing that I see in this diagram piece right here. Do you see what I see? Oh, it was mentioned earlier in the other class. And Dwayne, I think you're the one that mentioned it. What I'm seeing. Anybody, do you see anything? A bunny. Yes, I see a bunny, but I actually see a mouse. Here's the head, the nose, the blue nose, the two eyes, and the two ears on the mouse. So this is a mouse face, it's a bunny, an owl. See, this is our mind, the Gestalt theory. We want to organize and recognize things. So here in this design, you've got another small little design that could be cute on the corner of a hanky or on a card for somebody. The ring that goes behind you might not want, but if you took out the two small rings in the front and left it in back, it's almost like a beaver tail. Can you see that? If you took out the two that look like ears above the pink dot and just left the gray behind, that could be like a beaver tail or something that's got a big wide tail. This is fun. This is kind of thing that happens when you're diagramming too. I have a snowflake that I see something different in it, and one day you guys will see it. Probably when I stop teaching and go just working on my own designs. Isn't that? But this is beautiful. Now that's all I'm going to see when I'm looking at the diagram. It won't look like mice by itself, but Kathleen, this is fantastic, and that you did it all in Inkscape is wonderful. And for those of you who are watching the replay, we will get to doing all these things and how to line up. Want to ask you, I was thinking about starting class this fall with a class on using Word. And now you've used Inkscape to do it. So have you used I haven't used the text. Are they text boxes if you've used for all your different things in here? I know Inkscape, one of the things they've done in the last couple new versions, they have really upped the text and desktop publishing type tools so that it's much easier to use them. These are all such important things. The diagram elements, as well as the abbreviations, the symbols along with it, the bead sizes and colors. This is a lot of work. And beautiful photograph too. All the artists Inkscape. Great. Oh, you put it all together in Word. Okay. So I guess if you put it all together in Word, where'd it go? Did you use tables or text boxes for each of your little... Oh, I gotta open it. Come on. Get my chat over here so I can see this again. So what I'm wondering is for your abbreviations and techniques used. That's another wonderful thing to have on that most patterns don't have. So what I'm wondering is, like say for these techniques used, did you use a text box to put them in, or is this all a table? I don't think you used columns because columns are a pain. You did use tables, okay. And that's something that a lot of people, they know how to use Word for writing documents, but don't know how to use the tables. And like this one, you have the outline around. Another thing we need to talk about is the photo, the placement of a photo to keep it separate on its own so it doesn't hook itself to some of the text. So this is a wonderful ending for our class, some wonderful eye candy, a wonderful design. Now, are you selling that pattern now? Or are you going to once it's finished? This is testing. We're going to talk next week about the whole process and the different stages of design. And now you're obviously still in the evaluation after the tester has tested it, and then there's a time of while you work things out and maybe make changes and all to the final design. So I think that's probably what stage you're in right now is, although it looks beautifully finished. Oh, it's free to the online class. Oh, wonderful. Okay. Maybe Tammy's going to use it? That'd be a wonderful pattern for her to use. Well, that is it for tonight. I think that everybody's got enough to start playing with the things, and we'll talk more about rotation next week. And snapping to things and lining up your rows or rounds. You're welcome, Katia. And thank you all for being here. And thank you to all of you who watched the replay. Oh, you gave it to her too. Wonderful. You're welcome, Janella. I suppose. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad you feel that way, Dwayne. Great. It's nice when someone says wonderful class when I know that they've worked like in Illustrator before, and but we could always use refreshing and tips and hints from each other. I tend to learn a lot from other people in the classes. Sometimes it seems like I learn more than I teach. So, and we learn things together too, trying different things. We'll probably talk about alignment next week too. So, bye for now, everybody. It's been wonderful. And here I am. Wonderful to have you in class. And I thank whoever's taking care of me today that all the technical things worked out and smoothed out. Yes, now to watch the replays. And that'll be nice for the new people that even if they, you know, only pick up a couple things the first time, you can continuously watch it and learn. So, and I keep watching new videos too. I'm watching some, I've got about 3 people I like to follow and see what tips and hints I can pick up from them. So we'll see you next week, everyone. Bye bye.